Granna, how did you feel about being a mom the first time?
Ben, I had prayed for a healthy child, and this applies to my other two children. So my thoughts on having my first child also apply to my other two. God answered my prayer, and we have been blessed with three healthy children. I only wanted the best for each of them. To think of the responsibility of raising a child can be overwhelming. I don't know how anyone can accomplish this without help from the Lord. I suppose faith helps you navigate all the emotions you face as a new or young parent. I knew that we were responsible for this tiny being. I was filled with love for each child. The business of feeding, changing, and helping to sleep, which was very little, took over so many times, and I did not have the time to stop and ponder how I was doing as a parent. I look back and wish I had taken things slower and savored the moments more. I can say that each child with their own unique personality has added so much richness to my life. I love them dearly and am so thankful that I was privileged to be their mother.
Granna, what was your motto?
I think my motto, EAN, is always try to do your best. I have that innate nature to want to do a good job at whatever I do. Sometimes in school, I would be way over my head, especially in a college math class. That would be very frustrating to me. I recall one time near the end of finals when I didn't understand the math we were covering. I decided that I just had to buckle down and dig for it. I pulled a couple of all-nighters and finally started to understand. I could have saved all the agony if I had asked for help or paid attention more, but I got through the class okay. I believe that if you accept a job or commit yourself to a project, you should always strive to do your best. That does not mean to be perfect. I look back and feel that I could have done better, but I was doing the best I could at that time in my life.
Granna, where were you born? What was your childhood like?
Kaylin, I was born in Calhoun, Georgia. And when I was born, the doctor told my mother to hold on. There is another one coming. This was the first thought that there might be twins. And then there were two, Bill and me. So they had to get two of everything. Mother said that we stayed in the same crib for a long time. She said we were easy babies because we entertained each other. It was in 1946, right after World War II, and supplies were scarce. The local hardware store called Daddy when they received their first washing machine and let Daddy purchase it. Bill always seemed to get the most attention, as I remember it. And he got to go to the Howdy Doody show in Atlanta for a live taping, and I was left at home. One time he was not feeling well, and Mother said he had lost his appetite. Later that day, they found me looking under the house. When asked what I was doing, I replied that I was looking for Bill's appetite. My eyes were a little crossed when I was young. I started wearing glasses when I was 5 years old. The doctor thought my tonsils might be poisoning my eyes, so I had them removed. I remember coming home from the hospital after a night's stay. I went immediately to my swing set and sat in the swing in my nightgown. I loved having ice cream. Mother's sister, Ethel, and her son, Eddie, would come down from Cambridge Springs, Pennsylvania, most every Christmas. I remember that one Christmas Eve, we had all of Mother's siblings and their families at our house, and Daddy had to leave. About an hour later, Santa was at our front door. I was amazed. I told Mother that Santa had shoes just like my daddy's. Grandma, Daddy's mother, lived out of Calhoun, and I remember going to her house every Christmas afternoon to eat with all of Daddy's siblings and their families. Mother and Daddy had great friends in their Sunday school class. Most Saturday nights, these friends would come over and eat Mother's chocolate cake, play the piano, and sing. They always had a lot of laughter going on. I loved it because I received a lot of attention. Mother's brother, Paul, whom we called Bud, lived with us while we lived in Calhoun. He and Daddy always had the latest cars. Daddy was a Chevrolet man, and Bud was a Buick man. When we went to West Virginia and Pennsylvania every summer, we always had a nice car to ride in. Daddy and Bud both worked in Marietta, about an hour away. They rode with Mr. Acree every day, and I would always be waiting for them to come home in the afternoon. Bud worked at Lockheed, building planes, and Daddy worked at Tumpain, doing electrical contracting work. Not bad for two school dropouts. Both had to quit school so they could work to support their families. One year, we went to Pennsylvania to visit Mother's sisters, and Daddy was going to leave us there for a few days. Mother was helping Ethel can veggies from her garden. Daddy was going to drive to New York to visit his sister Betty. I did not want him to go, so I found a nail and put it in the dirt drive with dirt around it. I thought that if he drove over it, he would have a flat tire and wouldn't leave. When I was about 5, Daddy started preaching. We left Dakota Baptist Church, and he began pastoring at Plainville Baptist Church, followed by West Union Baptist Church. When I was 8, Daddy and Mother decided that we needed to be closer to his work, and we moved to Marietta. Bud moved with us and lived with us for 3 more years. I had completed 3rd grade at Calhoun Elementary.
Granna, tell us some fun times from your childhood.
I remember being a happy child, so nothing really stuck out in my early years as making me extra happy. I was fortunate to have loving parents and an extended family. I do remember when I became a Christian. That was a pleasant time that has turned into a state of peace and joy, not dependent on external circumstances throughout my adult years. I suppose I can say I have 4 special happy times. Can you guess? I was in college and had no plans for marriage, and really thought that I would not marry until sometime after graduating from college. I did not know that the happiness of marriage was near for me. When JW and I started dating, it wasn't a pleasant time. We would date, and then we wouldn't date. When we finally made a commitment to each other in marriage, I thought my happiness was over the moon, and I was thrilled when I found out I was pregnant with Jeffrey. When he was born, happiness continued unabated. We had a great time with him. He was our non-sleeper, but we still decided to keep him. We wanted to start a family, so I was ecstatic when I found out I was pregnant with Jason. We wanted a girl, but I didn't really care about it. I had gotten used to a boy, so that would be fine. I just wanted a healthy baby. Again, my happiness was immense when Jason was born, and we welcomed our second little one. Jeffrey had not been a good sleeper, so Jason was a most pleasant surprise because he was a good sleeper. We thought our family was complete for the time being. JW was contemplating additional graduate studies, so that was on our agenda. I was more surprised than happy when I found out about Jodi. Of course, it didn't take long to embrace the idea of a 3rd child, and true happiness ensued once again. We thought we would enjoy having 3 sons, and were surprised when Jodi turned out to be a girl. Oh, the joy of dressing a real, live doll. Our happiness at the birth of our 3 children has never wavered. Of course, there were challenges, but they enriched our lives so much. And then, because of them, my happiness has been further extended with the addition of Kristen, Heather, and Jeff. And then those precious grands came along: Kaylin, Andrew, Daniel, Ian, Ben, and Sam.
Granna, I won't tell anyone. Did you play pranks?
I was not one to pull pranks as I was growing up, but living with J.W. Wallace instilled in me the idea to always have fun. I recall one Sunday at Second Baptist when he was delivering a pocket sermon to the children. He had a rock in his pocket to illustrate a biblical story, but casually mentioned that the rock was like the biscuits his wife made. Now you know that I am not a biscuit maker. Everyone had a good laugh, and he forgot his comment. At the time, we always ate lunch at home on Sundays, partly because of the amount of time involved. We always had to return to church early for evening worship, but mainly because of the cost. As I was heading home that day after church, I thought about preparing lunch. Now, I already said I am not a biscuit maker, but for some unknown reason, I had decided on Saturday evening to make some angel biscuit dough. They are made with yeast, but have a biscuit texture. They were ready for me to form into biscuits when I got home. But I was also thinking of the children's sermon. I asked you boys to go out by the pool and get me some pebbles. I put some in a couple of the biscuits I was making. I did wash them first. I got lunch on the table, and the whole family was ready to eat. The biscuits were not quite done, so after the blessing, I went to the oven and got them out. Instead of putting them on a dish, I put one on each plate. I made sure JW got one with the pebbles. He was talking, eating, and bit into his biscuit. He looked in amazement at what he was eating and thought he was eating mushrooms in the biscuit, but it was too hard. We all started laughing. I told him I wanted to live up to the reputation of making biscuits as hard as rocks. He said, "What if I had broken a tooth?" And I told him it would have made me feel better.
Granna, were you a brave child?
This topic certainly doesn't describe me. I do not consider myself brave at all. However, the topic got me thinking about an adventure that I indeed would not have undertaken on my own. When Jeffrey was a student at Georgia Tech, he became acquainted with some counselors at the J.H. Ranch in Northern California. As a result of that friendship, he worked 3 summers at the ranch. It was a Christian wilderness ranch designed to immerse students in the Word and the natural world. One summer that Jeffrey was there, he asked us to come out and experience some of the ranch life that the students did. We arranged to fly to San Francisco, get a car, and travel to Northern California. Gigi, Jodi, JW, and I made the trip. Jason was busy leading worship at Super Wow and was unable to go with us. We saw beautiful sights during our road trip. We saw Mount Shasta covered in snow in the middle of summer, and we visited Crater Lake in Oregon. Finally, we got to the ranch, and Jeffrey, along with some other Georgia Tech students, met us. We were informed that we were to experience the ranch just like the students. Quiet time, worship, a trapeze into a lake, a bloppy, an intense ropes course, climbing a tall pole, sleeping on the creek bank, and riding the rapids of the Klamath River. Gigi and I observed all the on-campus activities, and JW and Jodi participated in several of them. I remember JW climbing the 747 and being unable to stand when he reached the top. I thought that was tremendously brave of him, even to try. Jeffrey belayed him down and asked if he was afraid. JW said, yes, he was, and Jeffrey said it was okay to be scared. Gigi stayed at the ranch and enjoyed going to the dining hall and talking to the counselors, while JW, Jodi, and I went on an adventure, which I consider brave. The campers were to go whitewater rafting down the Klamath River. Jeffrey, Ty, Ryan, and several others were whitewater guides. Where they got their training, I do not know. We drove and met the campers in the late afternoon. The guides were also our cooks. After an evening meal, we settled in our sleeping bags under the stars of Northern California and on the Pebbly Creek bank. The stars were magnificent, so many of them. We had a good night's sleep and woke to the guides cooking us eggs, bacon, and toast for breakfast. We had to get a good meal in before our adventure. Of course, we were given intense instructions because these were Class 4 plus rapids. We were given the privilege of being in Jeffrey's raft. We listened intently to all the instructions in case we came near a rock or got into any trouble. There was a possibility that the raft would turn over. It seemed intense, but I was really concerned when we were not allowed to get in our raft until we prayed. We came to Dragon's Tooth and got out of the water. Jeffrey explained the danger of this area and the possibility of capsizing, and we prayed again. We made it through Dragon's Tooth and got out of the water to wait for the other rafts to make it through. I then asked Jeffrey if he had ever capsized there, and he said he had the day before. Oh my. Although there were dangers, it was absolutely thrilling and incredibly fun. We reached a spot on the bank and had lunch that the guides had prepared and brought with us in our rafts. Sandwiches were so good. They then told us that we were going on a hike into the woods to go to Little Hawaii. This was an oasis in the middle of the woods where snow melt water pooled in a deep crevice, and the guides would climb up on the high rocks and dive in. To get there, after a short hike, we had to swim in the snowmelt water to reach Little Hawaii. I am not a strong swimmer, and I feel that I would not have made it had I not been wearing a life jacket. The coldness of the water took my breath away. But like many trials in life, the effort of getting in that cold water was worth it when we got to Little Hawaii. It was so tropical and beautiful. However, I became increasingly concerned as I watched Jeffrey climb the rocks and dive in. After a while, we swam out of the area, hiked, and got back in our rafts. Our adventure concluded when we successfully navigated the rapids. It was something I would never have initiated, but I was so glad I was part of that experience.
Granna, what makes you happy?
Well, Sam, I know that there is no perfect happiness on this earth. I do believe I have peace and joy in all circumstances because of my relationship with Jesus Christ, my Savior. There is a difference between happiness and joy. Joy is inward and does not depend on outward circumstances. I believe happiness is dictated by what is happening around you. To me, as a wife and mother, happiness occurs when my family is happy. When any one member is going through stress or anxiety, I am feeling their pain as well. And of course, when all the family gathers together, that is my happiest time. It takes juggling of schedules and effort to plan menus and events, but it is all worth it when we are all together. It is so much fun to watch the grands interact and have fun being together. It is fun to watch the adult children enjoying each other's company, as well as watching the adults interact with the children. Each year, it gets harder to get together with all. This will become increasingly challenging each year as the grandchildren attend college, participate in high school activities, and play sports. I treasure each time we get together. So happiness is my family being happy and together.
Granna, tell me about your favorite trips.
One of my favorite trips, Kaylin, was our trip to Vietnam in May 2017. It was hard getting there, long flights, but worth it. We were on a small tour, and all of us were traveling with only our partner. That made all of us more interested in getting to know each other. We got to explore sites in big cities, stay overnight on a boat in Halong Bay, make 2 in-country flights, and experience cultural sites in several small villages. We stayed at a luxury hotel each night and spent our days in the villages. We were in a crude boat and floated down the Mekong Delta. We got to watch rice paper and rice crackers being made in a private home. So many experiences and great food. I think we enjoyed it so much because it was so different from anything we had ever done. But my favorite trip was our 50th anniversary family cruise to Alaska. We all flew to Seattle and met up there. All of our family was there, 14 in all. We explored Seattle's Army surplus store the morning before we got on the ship. Life on a cruise is incredibly laid back, and our entire family had the opportunity to occupy ourselves in various ways. Even though it was cold and windy as we sailed from Seattle, it was not long before all the grandsons were in the hot pool on our floor of the ship. I found out later that it was for adults, but that was okay. They were having fun. Food is always plentiful on a ship. Our rooms were all together, and we would meet up most mornings at the breakfast buffet. Anything you would want to eat was offered, and then there were the ice cream, pizza, and burger places close to the pools. We would all snack at will during the day. I had asked that we all eat together the first night in the dining hall. We ordered from the menu and were treated to a great dining experience. Of course, Sam ordered a cheeseburger and Ben ordered chicken tenders every night. There were so many choices. JW and I especially enjoyed that first night. The dining hall could not seat all 14 of us at one table, but it had a table for 6 and another for 8 right next to each other. We got to eat at the table with the grands, and it was grand. The waiter wanted to impress Sam, being the youngest, and brought him a huge ice cream dish with sprinkles, chocolate syrup, cherries, and Cool Whip. But Sam only wanted a single small dish of ice cream. Then they decided to meet up every evening to eat together in the dining hall. We did get to eat privately in a special dining area one time and were treated superbly. When the children got bored, they explored the ship and found their favorite place, a bar with a dartboard in the back. That is where they were whenever we saw them missing. They always showed back up. Our excursions were a lot of fun. We hiked in Juneau, went to a salmon bake, got to ride in a dog sled, and watched a loggers show. We had so many great times together as a family. It was enjoyable to sit back and watch them interact with one another. Family time is the best.